Hey guys, how's it going? This is Dragos, and this is a new episode I wanted to do. I wanted to talk a bit more about something that I use quite often when writing jokes when thinking of stand-up, and this is metrics, stand-up metrics. So this video is about top 3 metrics that I use for stand-up comedy. Yeah, let's get into it. So basically, if you don't know what a metric is essentially it's a number they use to track performance. You track performance when it comes to, let's say, how much you are progressing towards a particular goal. When we used to use this in sales, I used to work in sales, and for example, we used to have a lot of metrics to track based on historical data. We would understand what numbers we would need to reach our particular target. So let's say if the targets were financial, if we wanted to, basically close 10 deals, which would amount to like $500,000, then we would have to make this amount of calls that would then translate to meetings, right? So the number of calls would be 40 calls per day, which then should translate into at least like 2 meetings booked in a day, and so on and so forth, right? So I've taken kind of this process of thinking about metrics to try to apply stand-up comedy, and I've kind of devised 3 metrics for myself that I track consistently, and I try to hold myself accountable to making sure I hit them in order to get to where I need to go, right? So the 3 metrics, I'm going to discuss them, but let's start off with metric number 1. Metric number 1 that I keep a track of and I'm very consistent with is number of premises written per month. Now, if you don't know what a premise is, it's basically an idea for a joke. So I try to write, my number is 200 premises per month. So I have a notebook, digital notebook, where I write down ideas. Whenever I get a joke, I write an idea down, right? Usually I try to write 3 to 4 ideas down per day. Sometimes, things don't always go as planned, but then, I try to catch up at the end of the month. And by writing 200 ideas, I maybe usually get like 5, 6 good jokes out of it. But then the idea is the more you put out there, the more you can fail, the more you can come up with a good joke. You get the bad ideas out of the way so you can get to the good ones, right? So 200, for example, this month now it's like the 29th of January. I've written down 180, which means the next 3 days I need to come up with 20 premises and joke ideas. I'm going to sit down, get those out, right? Because if you write 200 ideas for jokes premises per month, then you will come up with some good stuff, right? There's no way you cannot do that. Yeah, cool. So if you do that, I don't know if you want to keep 200 as a number, what I do it, but figure out your own way and go with it. The number 2 metric that I keep a track of, this is very important. A lot of comedians do keep a track of it, and it's a very good indicator of whether you're funny or not. And this is laughs per minute. Whew, laughs per minute. Exactly. Pretty self-explanatory. What it is essentially what I do is whenever I do a set, I record myself either audio or with video, and then I listen back. And I try to count the number of laughs that the audience has kind of generated in a minute. The ideal number of laughs per minute that you aim for as a professional comedian, from my understanding, and I'm pretty sure Jerry Seinfeld kind of quoted this as well, is 4 laughs per minute. If you manage to get 4 laughs per minute, then you're on a way to, great things. If you do 8 to 10, mind-blowing. So for example, if you are not familiar with the concept of a tight 5, a tight 5 is essentially 5 minutes of jokes nonstop. You gotta pack it in, remove all the fluff, all the fat, all the words that are not used, or they serve no purpose, and try to get as many laughs per minute as possible. So in a tight 5, you should aim to get 4 laughs per minute, which means 20 laughs in 5 minutes, right? And that could be 20 jokes. It could be a joke with multiple tags, or it can even be like a lot of physical type of performance, type of interaction that'll get the laughs. As long as people are laughing, that's what matters, right? So that is the number 2 metric that I use and I keep myself accountable to. Looking forward, the last metric that I kind of very strongly recommend you should keep a track of, it's probably one of the most important metrics in the game, and this is metric number 3. Number 3. It is stage time. Stage time, it is the most important metric that you can track, because this is effectively tracking the time that you are on stage performing, right? And you can't be a comedian if you don't perform. I'm sorry, you're a writer if you don't perform, which is nothing wrong with that. There's some pretty good writers out there, but there's comedians, writers, and others. But effectively, I have a spreadsheet where I track all my stage time. Every time I perform, put it in a little spreadsheet and put down the minutes, put down. I also rated like, 1 to 10 how I feel like it went. I have a little section where I kind of, why did it not go well, why it went well, what to replicate, and so on and so forth. But I try to keep a track of every minute of stage time that I put in there, right? Whether it's co-hosting or like crowd work, still counts as stage time. And the more stage time you get, the better you get. Now, it's actually because of tracking down stage time, I decided to focus more on comedy, because what happened was, I was reading Malcolm Gladwell's book where he talks about like how you need to get 10,000 hours of practice in order to become an expert at something, right? And I thought to myself, I wonder how many hours of practice I'm getting as a comedian. And I looked at it, and it turned out I was getting 30 minutes a month, which means 6 hours a year. 6 hours a year. That would take me like a shit ton of years to get 10,000 hours. So I thought to myself, well, this is not acceptable. So I basically stepped my game up. I divided strategy and approached it, executed to kind of get to more stage time, which meant I started hosting shows, starting setting up my own shows. I started up doing 1 hour shows, first 20 minutes, first 30 minutes, then 1 hours, because that is the only way they can get better, if you can actually put in as much stage time as possible. So if you are not tracking stage time, you need to track stage time now and stay accountable to it. That's how I do it, at least. I don't know if that's useful to you guys. I hope it is. If it was useful, please do drop me a subscribe somewhere around here. Leave a comment if you want any other topics for me to explore. I do have a couple of things that I'm thinking of kind of doing for next week and the week after, but just let me know, write it down, and subscribe with a little bell, and tune in again for more stand-up content. I'm going to be putting in my new crowd work video on Monday, and this usually comes out on Thursdays. So thanks a lot for watching, and come to one of my live shows. Also, you can follow me on Instagram. Give me a subscribe here, like, Facebook, a review, and come on, support live comedy in Europe. Yay!